Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for staying on at the conference to hear the last session. I know it's very tempting to try and make a hasty exit, but hopefully we'll make it worth your while. My name's Alan Lowdon. For the last 9 months or so, I've been project director for the offshore renewable energy catapult, which is, as you know, been mentioned on a number of occasions the last couple of days, is housed in Glasgow with an operations centre in the northeast of England. The purpose of my chat here on the lectern is really to ultimately introduce Jerry Biggs, but I want to give you a little bit of context as to how the catapult interfaces with the financial markets. We take a step back to when the catapult was conceived. We were very, very keen that it didn't become just another technology centre. Very important fact. So we looked at the market, looked at how the industry was performing, the key risk areas, and we decided to look at the industry through the lens of those who are fundamentally underwriting the risk and providing the capital flow into the industry, the offshore renewable energy industry. So with that in mind, we conceived the catapult as something which would be a technology de-risking agent and would be the intersection of technology meets capital. And to do that, we started to form our business plans in the intersection of the language of engineering and corporate finance, and it's proved very, very well received by the marketplace, well received by the sector per se. The fundamental thing which we have been looking at with NAREC Capital, and NAREC Capital is a partner in the catapult system, through the fact that NAREC, the National Renewable Energy Centre, is one of the partner organisations in the catapult, as is the Carbon Trust and the Ocean Energy Innovation affiliation from Scotland. We looked at it from the point of view of getting the market insight, getting the understanding, getting the connections, which meant that the catapult's position was fairly well assured as we opened the doors for business, with Andrew Jameson taking up office at the end of this month. Part of that, and a number of you in the room will have been privy to the first draft of the business plan, we started using language which actually formed that alliance and formed it very strongly. So we based the business plan upon asset class risk envelopes, asset class risk matrices, which is an intersection of the language of corporate finance and engineering. And that was done in part with consultation with NAREC Capital, because they were out there feeding us with the key issues that the industry was facing from the corporate finance point of view. We were then married them with the engineering and the technology aspects to form something which we think has got a fantastic sweet spot going forward for the next 10, 15, 20 years, hopefully. The nature of the catapult is to de-risk technology. It's also there to be a gateway for access to capital, and it's one of the biggest inhibitors is when you get the inventor community coming along and there is no source of capital to take their inventions through the various technology readiness levels. I won't steal Jerry's thunder. He's going to take you through that in his presentation, but fundamentally I just wanted to give you the broad understanding as to where this organisation fits within the bigger picture. The Catapult organisation fits within the bigger picture and the landscape that we've actually just been discussing very successfully, in my opinion, in the last couple of days. So without further ado, Jerry's got a fantastic story to tell. I'll let him tell it, but thank you very much for hearing my little introduction, and hopefully we'll be working together and there'll be more presence of the Catapult going forward over the next years to come in these types of conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Hopefully we'll have some slides in a minute, and I've been told to make sure I don't do anything about investment management at this time of night and put some big pieces of some big engineering kit just to finish the day and end on a bright note and show you why we're all here. Hopefully these slides will come up in a moment. Or maybe not. Here we go. Right, so first picture, just to explain a little bit about NAREC Capital as a bit of background and NAREC. And I'll go on to do this in detail in a minute. But I think the most important announcement is on the back of what Alan was saying there. We're just about to launch a funding mechanism that we will now base up in Scotland for between 30 to 50 million pounds that will invest directly in the commercialisation of key enabling technologies. Technologies that will help to facilitate our projects moving forward at an accelerated pace and reduce the cost cost per megawatt hour and the overall cost of capital. So before I go to the fund in a bit more detail, I'll just explain a little bit about the process that's been put in place in NAREC Group and why we as investors think that we can invest in these early stage technologies, somewhere where a lot of others fear to tread at the moment in time. Our aim is to provide a seamless solution to the financial services industry by utilising the test asset base of NAREC. That provides us with an ability to de-risk projects and key technologies in order to encourage the capital flow. Instead of being led by the renewables industry itself, we're led by our investor base, but backed up by a robust engineering process. Very quickly, let's have a look at some big kit that's just being developed out at the moment in time. So this is our facility down at, it's in Blythe, which is just about 25 minutes outside of Newcastle, on a fairly strategic location just on the east coast. It is a fairly unique port because it's got 24-hour deep water access. It's not far in proximity to Dogger Bank, where obviously one of the largest offshore wind farms will be built in the area. This year alone, NAREC has had about £130 million of European and public funding put into it for further development of its asset base. And we now proudly boast the world's leading test asset centre for offshore wind, wave and tidal. But NAREC does do more than that, and it does span across the rest of the renewables sector, but those are our key focus areas at this moment in time. What you'll see on the slide here is some of our new assets that are being built out, and then I'll explain why that's important to an investment manager. Right down at the bottom, you've got a 100-metre blade test facility, one of the longest in the world. We've got, next to that, is a 3.5 megawatt tidal, wave and tidal drivetrain test facility that was actually being put in the same dock as where the Ark Royal has been built. And that's just had its first commissioning partner in there now, which is quite an infamous or famous tidal technology. And then on the top right-hand side, you'll see a 15-megawatt drivetrain test, again, one of the largest in the world. There is another one like this, but this is absolutely unique because of the forced application system. The forced application system allows us to bend and break these technologies and find out where the risk lies. And that is what's important to the financial services community. Where is the risk in this technology? How can we learn where the risk is and share the knowledge, share the data behind this in a common manner? And that's what these assets allow us to do in a completely independent manner. So let's bring in the financial services part. Oh, first of all, the other part of NAREC is that having these asset bases attracts lots of SMEs. And through that facility, we're able to harness them with an incubation process and help them get out to market, utilising the assets, utilising the skill sets. And what you'll see here is just a few of the technologies that have passed through our facilities in the last year. Put ones on that most of you will know, but actually a very interesting one on the top left-hand side is a high-cycling flywheel. This was developed at NAREC by a flywheel boffin, who then went to a Formula One team and invented the KERS system. And that technology is now coming back to NAREC. We've just taken an equity stake in the technology, and we'll now be developing that out for wind and solar projects. You all pretty much know Aquamarine. Aquamarine came through the system at a clear time when it needed its power takeoff system doing, and NAREC performed that and got it accelerated through its engineering process and into the water. Very important, because what we managed to do within that process was identify a lot of the risk and stop it landing up on the beach as soon as it got up to Orkney. Multi-life bearings, a key enabler for larger scale turbines. Dual access testing is something we develop in-house ourselves. So lots of IP coming through from our own system, lots of SMEs, lots of engineering partners that are designing things, so R&D processes there, which makes it all very attractive for technology meeting capital. So what we did was we put a process in place whereby, working together with NAREC, we could facilitate a channel out to the financial services industry and start to de-risk a lot of the technologies and projects that we were working with. 2 years ago, the joint venture company was set up between NAREC and a private investment office called Ashberg. And I think that's quite significant, because Ashberg, as a private investor, our private investors were looking to actively break into what they saw was a new global industry emerging. They had their own renewable energy projects they were looking into, but the problems that we had when we tried to facilitate those projects and bring in the much-needed debt finance from the banking partners was the risks were just too high and not understood. Political risk we'll leave to the politicians to deal with. Technology risk was very apparent in these projects. How do we get some independent validation, some testing and development of these technologies so we could get confidence in them? And NAREC was the key to open that door. The other part of that was that the insurance community was nowhere near to understanding where the technology risk lied. And what happened with that was that the insurers then couldn't either write efficient policies, or the policies became prohibitively expensive for the projects, and therefore, especially the debt financing facilities, were just not attracted to the project. So we had to get some way of getting the insurers comfortable. So what we put in place was these 4 pillars of operation, where we take young technology or a project right through a commercialization process. Starting on the left-hand side, that you look at it, we work with the technology or the project from an investment standpoint, taking them out of the developer-type model and putting them into investor speak, making the projects robust and bankable. We then utilize the test asset base of NAREC and other associated partners, the skill sets of the catapult, to help to educate our insurance partners. And our insurance partners in this case are Willis, which are the second largest renewables broker in the world. Willis can then write much more efficient, bespoke policies for those technologies. The end result is then that when we go out on the next pillar to raise capital in the markets, not only do we stand a better chance of raising that capital and bringing that technology through, but we also reduce the cost of capital down because it's been through a de-risking process. And the last one, which we're coming on to today, is we established on behalf of the Technology Strategy Board an incubation and commercialization process. And this was to make sure that we did pull the technologies through, but we also were to invest in these technologies to keep some of the IP in the UK and to help build up the industry. This is the solution that's provided out to the industry. So if you see where we actually are on the right-hand side, where you see the wind turbine stuck in the sea, that's where we all want to get to. Robust, cost-effective projects. But let's look at the money bag, the finance community. Where are they today? And at the moment, they're saying the risk is too high and the reward is too low. So we have to change that mix. And the way to do that is by bringing in that insurance component. But we have to educate the insurers and get them at the learning curve. The insurance community thrives on standards and certification, and that's something, particularly in our industry, that is not present at this moment in time. And so going back one more, we will rely on test centres such as NAREC, pull through from areas such as the catapult to be able to establish those standards, to be able to test those technologies to make sure they reach those standards, that the insurers then can actually work out where the risk lies, what the component failure rate is, they can properly insure them, extend warranties on the kit, and properly insure the actual project at the end state as well. Last part of the preach today. So what we're announcing today is that we would now be basing a portfolio management operation up in Scotland. The aim of this portfolio management operation will be able to provide funding for companies developing renewable technologies with global application, providing early stage capital to accelerate the deployment and reduce the cost of renewable energy technologies and the projects that they're associated with. Our primary focus will be on UK-based companies. Out of the pipeline of technologies that we're looking at this moment in time, there's about 11 that are under due diligence. 7 of those are either based in Scotland or will come to Scotland as a result of this investment. The other key part of this is a multi-party initiative. It's not just a fund manager with another fund. This is a robust de-risking process that will allow this investment to come through and allow the capital markets to engage. So we'll be working forward with NAREC Capital that helps with the deal flow and the selection of the right technologies. NAREC will then look at the de-risking element along with the Catapult and our other partners. And then Frontier IP and Sigma Investment Management, which are based here in Edinburgh, will actually run the portfolio management operation for us. The unique part of this operation is that it will take investment in from 3 separate investor sources. The first one will be corporates coming in through a limited liability structure. The second one will be high net worth investors, where we come from in our Ashburg guys, and they will be incentivized by EIS tax breaks within the portfolio. And the final part of that was some public funding initiatives that wish to join in with us as well. So for the first time, we'll be able to have 3 types of investors within a common structure, all with the same guys that have been able to pull these technologies rapidly through to commercialization. Very quickly, this is the process that we've put in place. We're going to get those technologies in from industry. We get them in from key academic departments such as Strathclyde University, Durham Institute, etc., and our own IP. And then we pull them along through the technology readiness levels. And then only when we know that they are sufficiently de-risked, we then invest in them in key stage milestones to pull them through that process as quickly as possible. At the end of the process, we'll then get them out to market and we'll release ourselves from the funding mechanism. Just to make sure we have got the pipeline of technologies, you're more than willing to look at those in a moment. So, in summary, our business model will enable technologies and projects to be rapidly commercialized. To attract the external capital that's required, investment technologies and projects will be sufficiently de-risked. And through our combined service proposition, volume deployment and cost reduction will be accelerated. Ladies and gentlemen, once we turn a corner on a bit of political stability around EMR and where we're going with the energy mix, I have every confidence that this industry will be very successful. Scotland is clearly showing the way in leadership and direction and will establish itself not only as a centre of excellence for commercialisation of this industry, but as a base for new investment to flourish. Any questions? Everyone wants to go home. Thanks. Thank you.